Hey everybody, and welcome back. Today I want to talk about lighting, specifically off-road lighting and everything that I've added to my 2012 Toyota Tacoma over the past year. Now, I've done this with a budget in mind, and though some of the things in my truck are not super budget friendly, I would like to think that this video is probably applicable for the majority of the middle of the road people. You want a good quality product, you want a good quality light, but you just can't afford everything Baja designs. You can't just afford everything rigid. There are some middle of the road companies that make some great products, and I think I've done a pretty good job at picking the lights that I've got on this truck. So let's get into it. I've got the Baja Designs Squadron Sports. Now, before anybody jumps down my throat about this not being a budget option, this was the first modification I made to this truck, and I needed some lighting because I do hunt for camp after dark. Now, the Baja Squadron Sports is a one light solution. I consider that a budget option. One light, one great light, and you're set pretty well. Now, after the fact, I've since, and we'll see some of these later on in the video, I've been using Diode dynamics in some other lighting options, and it's made me think that those might even be a better option. I think they're probably, if not equal, very close to being just as capable as Baja Designs, and they're a much better price point. So though I don't have them as my fog lights right now, Diode Dynamics could be a really good option. And we're going to talk about Last Fit in a second. Those could be a really good option as well. And so this was my first modification, and I thought would be my only modification to lighting originally. So that's why I'd say I think it fits with the budget option, but there are more budget friendly options that may do just as well, so take that for what it's worth. So just a note on the Baja Designs fog lights, they are really great as a one light solution, and that kind of goes for any fog light in general. They did a really good job at kind of providing that almost flood type pattern that lit up everything in the direct vicinity of my car, the trail around me, and so you've got a lot of that immediate distance lighting. But where it kind of got hard is when you're trying to find camp late at night, you're looking for things off in the distance, and it just doesn't really provide enough light to try and do that. Once you get close, no big deal, but when you're trying to find camp, it can make things difficult. That was my biggest problem with them last year, when it's the only lighting solution I had. So the next up is my light bar, and you guys, I love this light bar. Now, I got this light bar from ExtremeLEDlightbars.com. This, along with all of my lights, except for these pods, I've paid for myself, done my research, and picked out the best option for the budget that I had. And this light bar, I've been extremely happy with. I think it looks great up there with the black truck, with the roof rack, and now I think it matches the pods really well. Overall, appearance-wise, extremely happy with it. But even more importantly, the output on this thing is incredible. Now, I don't remember how many tens of thousands of lumens that this thing puts out. I will link to every single one of these lights, whether or not I get any kind of affiliate commission from it or not. Everything's going to be linked for you guys in the description, so you can go straight to the website and read up on the specifications, the cost, all that kind of stuff. So I really like having that light really bright up high to shoot a ton of light down trail, so I can see what's coming from quite a ways away. Now, for a long time, that was the only light that I had on the truck, and so I did have it angled down just a little bit so I could also have that really bright light coming up quickly, so I could see what was coming up on the trail right in front of me. I could see big rocks coming up if I was going at a quick speed. But now that I've got things set up the way that I want them to, it is angled straight and it shoots a ton of light down the trail, which is great. Okay, so I have two more lights that I want to talk about, but first I just want to touch on what I still have left to do with the truck. So another lighting solution I want to add in the near future is going to be another light bar, but an amber one. Now, I really like having the amber fog lights down low, specifically when I'm on a really dusty trail, or maybe if I'm wheeling in the snow. I don't do that very often, but I could see having amber lighting be a huge plus for me. And so I'm really considering adding like a 20 or 30 inch light bar in the front bumper just in between that little outlet right there. I've seen a lot of other vehicles do it, and I think that could be a really good solution to get some more amber lighting down low for me. Now, I would also like to eventually do something with the headlights, whether that's adding an LED bulb or maybe just some aftermarket LED headlights. I think something's gonna have to change eventually to give me just that on the road, bigger, brighter presence that I don't have right now with these halogen bulbs. Okay, so next up are these light pods, these 3-inch pods from Last Fit. Now, I've been spending a lot of time putting these things through their paces lately, and if you've seen any of my recent videos, you've probably seen these in action. It was really nice to have these things in Anza Borrego to get that real peripheral extension of the light bar. So the light bar is this big, bright, centered spotlight, dead ahead, straight ahead in the center of the truck, in the center of my pathway. Now these driving lights, these pods, they take some of that bright light and they extend it in like this horizontal cyclops looking beam out to the side, and that gives me a lot of light down trail. On my right and my left, I've got tons of visibility. Now it comes in really handy when I'm making a turn because that light is down trail in the direction that I'm going before I've made that full turn. It just really adds a lot of functionality to that nighttime driving situation. Now I don't know if I didn't know about this when I made that last video or if I had just forgotten, but I guess you can switch out the lens on these pods, and so that's something that I may do just to try out in the future and see how much of a difference it makes having these pods be an amber light versus a white light. So something that's cool, a nice feature on these pods. Okay, so in a minute I've got one more light I want to show you guys, but first I want to show you guys what I use to operate all these lights and how I've got them wired up. Now, when I originally got my light bar, it came with a switch that's a lot like this. Now this is just a little simple switch, and I've got actually some camp lights hooked up to a switch like these, and they're not a problem, so to speak, but when you've got a bunch of them, where you're gonna put these switches in your truck kind of becomes a little bit of a messy problem. Now I've got an aux beam 8-gauge switch panel, which has really cleaned things up for me. So I want to show you that to you guys. So what's really cool about this is if you've added any sort of light bar or light pod or any kind of off-road accessory, 12-volt accessory to your truck, you know that these switches can be kind of a hassle if you've just got like the stock switches. Open this guy's up for you. So as you can see here, instead of having to deal with a bunch of different wires and relays, this sends one single wire into the cab. I actually didn't go through the firewall. I found this little grommet in here. I don't know if you guys can see it. I found this little grommet down there that had an opening. And so I just kind of poked through the carpet on the other side and sent in the one wire that goes from this to the switch panel. And that's the only wire that I've got going into the cab of the truck. So if you've installed any off-road lights or any 12-volt accessory at all, you know the wiring can get just a little bit hectic, a little bit crazy, especially the more you add, the more wires you got going in and out of your cab. Just becomes kind of an annoying situation. And so I love that you can get an affordable switch panel like this to kind of clean things up for you and just make things a lot cleaner, a lot sleeker, and just operating is just a breeze. So really all you need to do is have a positive and a negative from each light going in. So as you guys can see here, I've got positive, negative for the light bar, positive and negative for the ditch lights, positive and negative for my chase lights in the rear, which we'll talk about in a second. And then this is just a little positive switch right here, a little wire that goes to my DC-DC charger and tells my battery it's okay to start charging off of my starter battery. Now I've got this thing mounted in here with just a mount plate. It's like a bracket, but it comes with the aux beam panel, and I used a nutsert tool to create bolt points for this thing, and it's held up pretty well on the trail, so not bad. So I thought that that was pretty relevant, just kind of given the topic. Some of you guys may be looking for a similar solution, so I did kind of wanted to include that switch panel in this video. Okay, so next up, I've got these Diode Dynamics SS3 amber combo chase lights. So I've got these mounted on my front runner roof rack. Now, as you can kind of see here on the sides, I actually have a total of 6 of them. There's 2 white ones on each side, but those are more used for flood lighting, camp scene lighting, just kind of light up the area out at camp instead of me having to pull out a lantern. But for this video, we're specifically focusing on the off-road use, and so that's where these amber lights come into play. Now, these are more than anything a safety precaution. Now, we kick up a lot of dust when we're out on the trail, and this is so somebody can follow you at a safe distance. For example, when we were on our recent trip to Anza Borrego, driving during the daytime, we're kicking up so much dust that my buddies that are behind me, they couldn't necessarily see my truck, but they could see the amber light. The amber light was bright enough so they knew exactly where I was at, and if I came to a sudden halt, they would be able to too, and we wouldn't have some kind of trail accident on the trail because of poor visibility. So I decided to go with a combo light for these guys. Part of it is a spot, the other is a flood. Now, I thought that that would be the best option, just given like the dual purpose. The spot I thought would be super bright for that safety precaution. Then I was hoping that the flood would give me enough area lighting to kind of maybe use it as like an additional camp light. However, I would probably go all flood or all spot. Probably all spot, just given that I'm using these for safety. And I think I would have needed to go all flood for these to work the way I wanted them to out at camp. So really, they work fine. I'm not going to change them because they do achieve their purpose. But you know, the aspect of using it as an additional camp light didn't really work out. But that's okay, because I actually do have some lighting back here in my tailgate, which you guys will see in the future. Now, there's another aspect to these lights that I'm going to show you really quick, because all 6 of the ones that I have are the same, but it's this backlight. And so I'm going to turn these on. Now you can kind of see this little amber backlight glow right here. Now, from a camp light aspect, as you can kind of see, these are my side lights right here. From a camping light aspect, these things are great. Like when you want like really dim, kind of almost like mood type lighting, when you got the campfire going and you don't want some big bright floodlight, these things are awesome. I really, really like them. But for the chase lights, they actually serve a dual purpose. Now, running a chase light on a clear night, this light is too bright. It just blinds whoever is behind me at nighttime. But if I were to leave this amber backlight on at night, that would be plenty. Maybe it would be a really good option for when we're running trails at night. And so that's why I think these chase lights can be a really good option. Now, they have a separate wire. Let me show you guys that real quick. So if you guys, I know it's kind of dark, but if you can see it here, there's 3 wires coming out of these lights. There's the black, the red, and then there's the blue. The blue is actually what powers the backlight. Now, I actually did not set up that function on these back 2 lights, though I still can, and I'm going to. Because originally, I didn't think I was going to need that backlight for these 2 rear lights, because I thought the flood spot combo was going to work just fine for chase lights at night, but I quickly realized, using them for the first time on the trail at night, they were blinding to the person that was behind me. And so full power is just not an option in clear conditions. Now, if we're driving through some weather, or maybe the trail dust is, you know, way too much for just the backlight, then maybe there's a use case for them, but I haven't experienced it yet. And so we'll have to see in the future on that. But I will be wiring these guys up in the future to be able to have that backlight function. It's just going to have to run that blue wire all the way up to the front of the truck and plug it into that switch panel. So overall, I'm really happy with the lighting upgrades that I've made. Now, there's one that I didn't mention, and that is some undercarriage lighting or some rock lights. Now, the reason I want to do those is just so that I can navigate obstacles and rocks as we're going through the trail at night. So far, we've had to rely on flashlights in certain situations, and it would be nice to just be able to flip a switch and your spotter just could see everything that they needed to around the truck. So it's definitely something that I want to do in the future. Now, I hope you guys like this video. everything I chose, I do feel like is relevant for somebody who's trying to do this with budget in mind, but still wants good products. So as I said, I'll link everything that I talked about today in the video description. Thank you guys for watching. I hope to see you out there, and we'll catch you in the next one.